March 4th, 1944. Stalag Luft III, Sagan, Germany. The snow had crusted over, hard and sharp like the mood in Camp North compound. A whistle blew. Boots struck frostbitten gravel in lockstep. Oberfeldwebel Günter Roth scanned the courtyard, steam rising from his breath. Eyes narrowed under a steel helmet dulled by years in war. POWs lined up for roll call. Slack postures, British and American airmen in wool coats too thin for the Silesian cold. Behind them, a Red Cross parcel wagon creaked by, wheels whining. Inside it, canned milk, tinned meat, soap, cigarettes, and Monopoly boards. Ein Kinderspiel, Günter muttered. A child's game. He sneered as Lieutenant Bromley, a lanky RAF pilot with a crooked grin, cradled the game box like it was gold. "Care for a round, Herr Feldwebel?" Bromley called out in German, chuckling. Laughter followed, both sides. Günter's men smirked. Even he cracked a grin. A cardboard game for captured flyers? Let them pretend. It passed the inspection anyway. But that night, under lantern flicker and muffled footsteps, Bromley cracked the tiny green house open. Inside, a needle, a pin, a thread of magnet. He fit the halves together. Click, a compass. Small enough to be hidden in a mouth. Strong enough to point west, to freedom. Above them, floodlights swept. Guards walked the perimeter. Inside the barrack, Bromley whispered, "We move next moon." Meanwhile, Günter sipped cold coffee in the guardhouse, scribbling in his logbook. Under parcel contents, he wrote, "Board game, Monopoly, inspected, harmless." He smiled at his own sarcasm. Another night of order, another day of control. But outside, buried in snow, a tunnel grew longer, guided west by a toy they should have feared. What would you have done if someone smiled while handing you a child's game? March 5th, 1944. Stalag Luft III, dawn coal. Smoke drifted low over the snow-crushed roofs. It stung the eyes, coated the teeth. Inside Barrack 104, the frost creaked on window panes. Men lay stiff under blankets. British, Canadian, American. Every breath a cloud of defiance. Lieutenant Alan Bromley stirred first. His fingers, pink with cold, reached for the board. Not chess, not cards, Monopoly. Each piece had been hollowed with care. Each square of the board inked with silent meanings. He tapped a die. It didn't rattle. The cavity was filled. Outside, the German flag flapped. Crows squawked. The air stank of boiled turnip and latrine frost. Oberfeldwebel Günter Roth moved down the central compound, a pillar of pressed wool, leather gloves, and ticking fury. Every morning, the same. March, bark, count. But something was different now. Too many smiles, too much cheer. In the mess, POWs hummed jazz from memory. From inside a mess tin, a harmonica wheezed the tune of In the Mood. The Germans hated it. Günter didn't, not really. He'd heard it once before, in Berlin, 1936. A girl had danced. Now the sound made him flinch. At inspection, Bromley stood straighter than most. He clutched his Monopoly board under his arm like a Bible. Günter paused. He stared too long. "Something amusing, Herr Feldwebel?" Bromley asked softly. No answer, just a grunt, just a tick in Günter's eye. The board was inspected. Again, no wires, no blades, no radio. Just plastic houses, painted with childish green. Later that evening, as the guards laughed over schnapps, Bromley whispered into a spoon taped under his bunk. Tunnel 19 confirmed. A line due west. Behind the snow walls. Hope pressed forward, 1 inch at a time. What would you see if you weren't told what to look for? March 6th, 1944. Morning drill, North Compound. A trumpet crackled through the frost. Not military, a mimic. An American POW blew into a hollowed potato, making jazz echo off the barrack walls. It was absurd. It was infectious. And it enraged Günter Roth. He slammed his cane against the mess bench. Enough! The music stopped. But the grin on Bromley's face stayed. Calm, calculated, maddening. These men, Günter muttered to his junior guard. They've lost. The junior shrugged. Then why do they act like they haven't? Günter had no answer. He turned, spotted Bromley again. Always Bromley. That cursed game tucked under his arm again like a child's toy. A deliberate insult? Or worse, a mask? The Red Cross parcels kept arriving, each marked neutral. Inside, vitamins, cigarettes, more Monopoly sets. A gift from Parker Brothers, sent under Geneva protections. Roth didn't care for Western toys. He cared less for Western symbols. That day, Bromley wore a Coca-Cola pin on his jacket, smuggled in, polished, proudly displayed. It clashed with the camp's filth. Roth stepped forward. Remove it. Bromley didn't. Instead, he offered him a cigarette. American. From the same parcel, he said. Same as your soap. Roth took it, smelled it, pocketed it. Later that night, a German interpreter filed a memo. Prisoners using coded phrases. Collect utilities. Go to jail. Advance to go. He suggested closer inspection of games. The memo never reached Günter. He was in the barracks, scrubbing his boots. On the floor beside him, a cigarette, half-smoked, still warm. Above, the wind howled. Below, men plotted, not revenge, not sabotage, escape. When a prisoner smiles like a victor, what war are you actually fighting? March 8th, 1944. Barrack 104. 0300 hours. Moonlight sliced through the frost-laced window. Inside, shadows moved. Quiet, disciplined, rehearsed. Bromley leaned over the Monopoly board. He slid a card free, get out of jail free. Underneath, a folded square. Waxed paper, stitched with a red thread. A map. Not of the camp, of the forest beyond it. 3 men crouched beside him. One held a tiny compass, no larger than a cuff button. The needle twitched. West. Outside, a German shepherd barked. The men froze. A whistle blew. Roll call. Now. Chaos followed. The camp snapped awake. Men stumbled into boots, scrambled to line up. Günter Roth emerged fast, furious. The count had to be exact. They were 1 short. Search the latrines, he ordered. Check the fences. 10 minutes passed, then 12. The missing man reappeared, breathless, covered in mud. I got turned around, he muttered in English. Roth didn't buy it. He logged the discrepancy. He filed the report. No one cared. 1 prisoner, lost in fog, found again, not an escape. Inside the officer's hut, laughter echoed. British accents, full-throated and cruel. Bromley walked past Günter, saluting mockingly. In a hurry this morning. Oberfeldwebel, he said with a wink. Günter said nothing, but his eyes narrowed. Something didn't add up. That night, he inspected the latest Monopoly board himself. He tapped the houses. They felt light, hollow. He pressed one against the table. It cracked. Nothing inside. He laughed, a sharp, sudden burst. Maybe they were playing games after all. Still, he logged it. POW missing 12 mins. No breach. Game. Monopoly. Checked again. No issues. He never noticed the missing die. What else would you have missed? While laughing. March 10th, 1944. Commandant's office, Stalag Luft III. The door slammed shut. Oberst Friedrich von Lindiner, blue-eyed and brittle, waved the report in the air. Twice now, he snapped. The numbers don't match. This is not amateur hour, Roth. Günter stood rigid. We recaptured the prisoner. No breach. Herr Oberst. Von Lindiner stared. You're guarding flyers. Escape is in their blood. A beat, then. Conduct a full inspection. Random, brutal, especially their parcels. March 11th, 1944. Roll call whistles. Barking dogs. A squad of guards entered Barrack 104 without warning. Rouse! Alice Rouse! Bromley's bunk was flipped, his books tossed, his cards scattered. Then, the Monopoly board. Held high by Günter. He dropped it on the table, hard. The plastic thimble bounced, the houses slid, the board cracked, clink. A sound no one expected. Not wood, not plastic. A tiny disc rolled across the floor and stopped at Günter's boot. He picked it up. A compass. His men leaned in. The room froze. Then, laughter. One guard chuckled. Another roared. A compass? From a toy? They scoffed. Günter felt his ears burn. He looked at Bromley, who offered only a shrug. Quality craftsmanship, the pilot said lightly. Günter crushed the compass in his fist. I want full strip searches daily, he ordered, and no more board games. But the order came too late. The next parcel had already arrived. The next compass already buried. The next man already memorizing the map hidden in the fake chance card. That night, Bromley etched a mark into the barrack wall. A silent count, one more ready. And in the darkness, the wind howled west again. If you crushed the evidence, but not the idea, have you truly stopped anything? March 13th, 1944. Guard Tower 4. Pre-dawn fog. A shaft of gray light filtered through barbed wire mist. From his tower, Günter Roth watched the prisoners shuffle between barracks, half awake. They looked beaten, but moved with too much rhythm. That bothered him. He sipped cold chicory coffee, numb to its bitterness, then turned to the confiscated items on his desk: books, letters, tobacco, and a Monopoly board split in two. He unfolded it, let it lie flat, just for curiosity. Each square stared back at him: boardwalk, jail, electric company. He never understood the humor, but then he saw it. The scrawl. A pencil line, faint, almost vanished in daylight. A line drawn from community chest to free parking. A second one across Reading Railroad. He grabbed a ruler, measured the angles. Then it hit him. He bolted to the map cabinet, unrolled a sheet of Sagan's forest perimeter, aligned it next to the Monopoly board. The tunnel map matched. He checked it again. The distances, the bearings. The British had been building escape routes, using a child's game as a cipher. Every die roll, every move on the board. A direction, a drill angle, a signal. And that compass? It wasn't for finding north. It was for verifying west. Poland lay east. The Third Reich lay east. But home, that was west. He sat down, breath shallow. They weren't playing, they were planning. Then he saw it, scratched on the inside of the box lid. Go directly to freedom, do not wait. The quote mocked him. The board fell from his hands. If your enemy builds a map from laughter, is it still just a game? March 14, 1944. Barrack storage room. Late night, the Monopoly box lay open on the desk. Pieces scattered. Dice missing. No one laughed now. Günter Roth sat alone under a low-watt bulb. His uniform hung stiff on the chair, belt unbuckled. The air smelled of damp wood and old glue. In his hand, one of the green plastic houses. He pried it open with a penknife. Inside, empty. Still, he couldn't stop shaking. He thought of Berlin, winter 1937. His son, Lucas, unwrapping his first compass on Christmas Eve. Tiny, red-needled. Lucas had asked, "Papa, which way is home?" Günter had pointed east, toward their apartment. Now this thing in his hand, this cursed toy, pointed west. And it wasn't for a child. It was for men who refused to break. He set the house down, turned on the phonograph, low, jazz, faint, forbidden. A lone trumpet whispered out, "Moonlight Serenade." It drifted through the walls. He'd confiscated the record months ago, never turned it in. He listened now. He thought of Bromley, eyes calm, voice warm, hands always busy, never flinched, never folded. What kind of man smuggled freedom into a board game? A madman? A genius? A soldier who still believed in tomorrow? He closed the Monopoly box, wrapped it in paper, wrote on the label, "Do not burn, evidence, hold." He locked it in the filing cabinet, then sat back and watched the compass spin in his hand. West, always west. If you hold your enemy's truth in your hand, what does it say about your war? Stalag Luft III. 22:30 hours, a blackout swept the compound. Power line malfunction. Guards lit flares, barked orders. Confusion swirled. Inside Barrack 104, the floor panel creaked open. One by one, men slipped into the earth. Tunnel Harry, 111 meters long, a feat of madness and mud, reinforced with stolen wood, lit by scavenged wire, ventilated with tin cans. Above ground, Günter Roth stormed through the dark with a lantern. He felt it, that primal gut pull. Something was happening. Then the flare went up, then the sirens. 01 dour hours, first reports. Prisoners missing, unknown count. Günter rushed to the tunnel breach. Boot prints vanished into forest snow. He grabbed the manifest, scanned names, faces. Bromley's was gone. But on the table, his Monopoly board remained. Günter opened it. Empty. No pieces, no map, no compass. Just a blank board and silence. Behind him, von Lindeiner's voice roared across the yard. 76 men unaccounted for. Find them, now. Searchlights cut across the trees. Dogs howled. Foot patrols charged into the black woods. By dawn, 3 had been recaptured. The rest vanished into the Reich. Günter stood at the tunnel mouth. Held the small green house again, the one he hadn't crushed. He stared into the dark shaft. 100 men had dug through a war. And somehow, with toys and tin, they had touched freedom. If 76 men disappear under your watch, are you a jailer or just a witness? April 1st, 1944. Commandant's office, post-escape crackdown. The report sat heavy on von Lindeiner's desk. Of the 76 escapees, 73 had been recaptured. 50 had been executed by the Gestapo, against Geneva law. The order came from Berlin. Roth had read it, once. Then he locked it away. In the evidence room, Günter opened a cardboard box. Inside, Bromley's confiscated belongings. Harmonica, Red Cross biscuits, the Coca-Cola pin, and the Monopoly board, intact, untouched. He set it down, opened the lid. 1 die missing. 3 game tokens gone. The chance deck, incomplete. He checked the pieces again. No compass. He whispered, not to anyone. How many made it? With this. He didn't expect an answer. The room echoed with the silence of questions never asked. Later that evening, he passed the chapel. Inside, the POWs held a memorial. Names were read aloud. Alan Bromley, no rank, no nationality, just a man. Günter stood at the doorway, cap in hand. He listened. The harmonica played Auld Lang Syne. Raw, crooked, beautiful. That night, he returned to the barracks, alone. He held the Monopoly box again, the toy pieces, the fake cash. He poured them out on the table. One by one, he counted them. None matched. Nothing added up. He wasn't sure anymore if it was a game of freedom or just a man's last fingerprint on the world? If you bury a man's compass, but still feel its pull, what direction are you truly facing? May 8th, 1945, Liberation Day, Stalag Luft III. American jeeps rolled through the gates. The war was over. POWs cheered, flags waved, men wept openly, not for victory, but for survival. Günter Roth didn't speak. He stood by the wire fence, helmet in hand, uniform folded neatly. A U.S. captain approached, young, calm, eyes sharp behind round glasses. "You in charge here?" he asked. "I was," Günter replied. The captain gestured to a pile of sealed boxes. "What's in those?" "Confiscated items, from the prisoners." The officer opened one. Inside, a harmonica, a torn photograph, a game board. He held up the Monopoly box. "They really used this?" Günter nodded. Slowly, the American flipped it open. "Where's the compass?" "Gone," Günter said. "Used." The captain looked at him, then back at the board. "You never understood what you were guarding, did you?" Günter didn't answer. He looked out over the yard, where the prisoners once marched. Now free men walked, heads high, shirts untucked, sunlight on their faces. He whispered, barely audible, "Not until it was gone." That night, in the quiet of an empty guardhouse, Günter sat alone. The Monopoly board before him. He rolled a die. It clacked once, then stopped. He moved the boot token, 3 spaces forward. There was no one left to count, no one left to watch. Only a man and a toy, and the echo of a war. He didn't win. If freedom leaves through your gates, can you still pretend you were the one in control? May 9th, 1945, temporary Allied processing station. Sagan Günter Roth stood before a folding table. Behind it, 2 American officers typed forms, asked questions, stamped papers. Name? Roth, Günter, Oberfeld-Webel. Camp duty? North Compound, from 43 to surrender. The younger officer flipped through a clipboard. "You're clean. No war crimes. No abuse." The older one asked, "Any final property to declare?" Günter reached into his satchel, pulled out a wrapped parcel. He placed it on the table, gentle. "What's this?" Günter said only, "A lesson I failed to learn." The officer opened it. Inside, 1 Monopoly board, carefully folded, a compass, small, rusted. A note, scrawled in English, "May those who followed this West find peace, and those who didn't find understanding." The Americans looked at him. Why keep it? Günter didn't answer at first. Then he said, "Because it's the only thing I guarded that got past me." Hours later, alone in a temporary barrack, he watched a young American soldier explain the game to his buddy. Dice rattled, pieces moved, laughter. It was just a game, again. But not to him. To him it still pointed west, to a place he never reached, to a moment he never stopped, to a truth he saw too late. And as the sun set behind the ruins of a lost war, the toy compass, battered, chipped, still true, spun once, then settled. West. What would you have done if someone handed you a toy and dared you to see the truth inside it?